myself reoriented here. I had a video call with the Xbility team that I just finished up, and finding myself a little unprepared to start this, but I said 2 o'clock, so here we are. We're 11 minutes behind schedule, but better late than never. I am going to queue up so I can actually see the live stream on my computer here, so I can see the team chat. What team chat? You know what I'm saying. I can see the if I have any guests, what they have to say. All right, cool. Well, I guess I can get prepared to do the thing while I'm getting ready to do the thing. Pretty good. Let me just back it out a little bit. Adjust my camera, get it squared away. Cool. All right. I need to sort out some things. Yeah, that's probably worthwhile. All right. Hey, look, I got a couple of people here. How you doing? I'm just getting all my baggies sorted out. As I was mentioning when I started the stream and nobody else was here to listen to me, sorry for being late. I just got off a team call with Xbility. We had a good conversation, so it just took a little longer than I anticipated, and I did not get a chance to organize myself in the way I would like, so I'm taking time to do that real quick, just to get these bags organized and try not to drop stuff in my trash can. All right. Ugh. All right. Where's bag 4? Looking for bag 4. Is there no bag 4? There it is. Okay. Bag 4. 5, 6, 7. 6, 7. All right. 8. Turn. All right, I may need to condense some space here. I'm running out of room, guys. All right. This is just gonna be a nice lazy Sunday. Doing some builds here for a friend, and this is also kind of nice for him because he gets to see the birth of his new children. But all right, did I already put bag 15 out there? Okay, bag 15 is a bag I don't need technically. But all right. This is all bumpers and stuff. Yeah, I can do that later. We'll put that back in the box. Okay, and then this is auxiliary stuff. Awesome. Alrighty. Well, I'm going to take these and put them beside me. So we can make room to work here. All right. And if anybody wants to say hello in chat, I am available, and I have it up on my computer over there so I can see what you guys are saying. Ugh. It does take about 7 seconds from the time you send it to me seeing it, so just be aware of that. Trying to get these organized over here. Ugh. All right. All right, so Xbility has build videos where they go bag by bag and explain stuff. I'm going to throw these cars together in any particular order, and then I'll just have some commentary. Now, he obviously had some spoilers. I was going to make a big deal out of the fact that I was going to put the front and rear ends together separately and then pull the chassis out. But yeah, we're building a GT car and an F1 today. So probably want to bring these chassis out of the bag so that we can start putting them together. Because they kind of share the same parts besides the chassis, I want to put them together at the same time, just for simplicity's sake. All right. Let's just empty the bags. Yeah, I just got done watching prior to the team meeting, I watched the Monaco GP, and if you're hoping to not hear any spoilers, apply earmuffs. But yeah, Antonelli did a really, really good job. I was impressed. All right. So many bags, so little time. All right. Does anybody else have like a box full of these little bags, or do you just throw them away? I'll probably just throw them away, because otherwise they get a little bit excessive. That's pretty much RC in general, but I found definitely with our scale, we're keeping these tiny Ziploc bag companies in business. That's for sure. I also have a running gag that I do with at least the videos that I've made for friends before, but I always make a point to share which beverage I'm drinking at any particular point in time. And I'm going all Kroger today, so cherry Coke. Good times. All right, let's get some tools out and some Loctite and the inevitable rag. Probably should grab a couple Q-tips. Hold on. My favorite. All right. So we're just going to put it together. Let's see, these are my servo mounts, my side link things. This is for the rear of the chassis. Now, this particular piece is our battery holder. not a huge fan of using these because I use 450 or larger batteries, which this just gets in the way. So I'm actually going to set that off to the side. All right, so that piece goes to that. And then just for general assembly purposes, let me queue up. All right. So we'll sort the screws out. Most of these are going to be the same, but not all of them. All right. So those are all the same height. Then we got our long guy there. And then we got that. All right. So I'll do the same over here. Oh yeah, tuned into Nick's live stream, watch him organize. Yeah, sorry about that. Oops. All right, come back here, you. Yeah, I want to make content, be able to help folks, but I'm usually pretty busy and I don't have time to edit videos, so this is kind of my compromise. That I'll either do really short, informative videos, or I'll just pop a live stream on and do what I got to do, and hopefully you guys enjoy. All right, so then I can get in there and show you. All right, hold on. One other thing I got to do. Let's adjust my lighting a little bit. Make sure everything's well illuminated, but yeah, this has 3 different holes in it. I always just use the center. I am not good enough of a driver yet to differentiate, but you know, there's kind of a thing about that too, because I was thinking I'm going to have 2 cars of the exact same class, and that was going to allow me to make a subtle difference to the car and then take it out and see what it does. So maybe I will learn. All right, so I'm just going to apply a little bit of Loctite to threads on this nut, which I'm probably going to have to. Let me see. No, I'm good. Yeah, just working. So you got to get on that side of the nut thing so then it'll slide down. This is for our rear spring. I have to likely readjust this after I get that kind of approximate. Yep, we're still where we need to be. And then I don't think this might actually be deep enough. Where was this last time I used it? Ah, yeah, just got a nice tool here for. I usually use this for front axles, but that'll allow me to tighten that up adequately. I can get it off the nut. All right, cool. We're in the middle hole, and then I can just clean up that residual Loctite a little bit. Probably could have done that with a rag too. All right, cool. So do the same thing on this car. Get that in the middle hole. It's very subtle. All right, just a little tiny bit of Loctite. You don't want a tremendous amount of Loctite. Just that little tiny bit will do you. 9 times out of 10, even when I do the little bit of Loctite, I still make a mess. You know, like after I tighten the fastener up, it'll squeeze out of the hole a little bit, and I'll have some. I've seen people where they'll just make a pool of it on like a plastic wrapper or maybe one of the Ziploc bags I just threw away. And then that way they can, you know, be a little bit more tidy about it. But that's the other thing too about using tools like this. You want to be careful not to over tighten the fastener, especially on the F1 here, because it's got a carbon chassis. The last thing you want to do is crack the carbon. So we're just going to do like a quasi finger tight there. And I mean, if it's there, it's got Loctite, and it's not going to see a tremendous amount of stress. So, all right. Next, looks like we're using some short screws. Where'd that long one go? Hold on a second, I'm looking at some reference material. Okay, I'm on this one. So the long screw, funny enough, was actually meant for that center battery hold down guy. So we're going to go ahead and remove those screws. So then I just have to worry about these. We'll come over here. All right. So servo mounts. These are similar but not the same. They have little like protrusions that stick out that key into the hole. So you'll have to make sure that they're lined up properly. Obviously you want that facing forward. So yep, just put it in the hole. And then same thing on this side. All right. Now if I can just set that down. A lot of times what I choose to do is just drip a little tiny bit of Loctite on the threads here. There we go. Little goes a long way. That's what I don't like about this live stream format is I can't switch cameras to show that in greater detail. But yeah, there's just a little dribble. Will that focus? No. Okay. Well, production problems. Sorry, guys. We'll get that figured out on later streams. Right now, I'm just using my cell phone camera, which is quick and easy. You know, I do come from a background of production. You know, I did many years as a musician doing audio production and stuff, and you know, technically, if I wanted to set something up that's a little bit more professional here, I could do that. We'll see how people enjoy these live streams first, though. No sense in spending a whole bunch of money on something that's not going to work out. All right, so these pieces are curved, and you're going to want that curve facing forward. So I will note the top and bottom of this. Now, the other thing too is that the top, or one of the sides has longer protrusions than the other. So you want the longer ones facing upwards, and then you want the curve facing forward. So technically this one goes over here. Because the longer ones are going to key into some carbon fiber versus this just has to key into the chassis itself. All right, so we will get some screws, butter her up, a little bit of Loctite. Okay, well, you just fall off then. Guess that one doesn't want to play. I feel like I'm doing something wrong here. Hold on. Maybe. Nope. It says the round corner goes towards the front, so does that do that on my actual car? Hold on a second. Yeah, it looks like it does. That's not my actual car. Just make sure I'm not doing something silly. And again, I'm building this for a friend, and you know, last thing I need is him being unhappy. So, and yes, everybody should build their own kit. I agree. For those of you that are thinking that or saying that out loud to their TVs or computer screens or phone screens or however you're watching this. But some of us don't have time, and I think that's time, patience, and sometimes even, the manual dexterity to do stuff with small parts. So I understand. And that's why I volunteered to do this today. And the idea of doing it on a live stream is just for the simple fact that I can maybe help somebody. Because I feel as a new inductee to the Xbility factory team, that's kind of a responsibility of mine. I got to help people. And it's fun, too. You get to meet people and help them out. I kind of like this. I'm going to put this on here first. Because now this one's a little different. You key it in like that. Carbon fiber. All right. Yep. One of the things I like the most about these two Xbility cars is the interchangeability of parts from one chassis to the other, because they're two different cars. However, they're two of the same car, and I personally appreciate that a lot, because it makes it where I don't have to have a separate tackle box of spare parts. I can just carry one box. Oop, I'm putting that on the wrong hole. Where am I? No, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of these XB-F1s out at the races I'm going to, especially over in Columbus. Shout out to my EN Hobbies crew out there. It's a 3-hour drive for me to go race out there, but they have a really, really nice facility. Bruce, the owner, is pulling out all the stops. Like, I swear, if RCP Tracks ever goes out of business, and it becomes hard to find RCP, you're gonna probably want to talk to Bruce, because he owns more RCP than anybody I've ever met, and that's just hilarious. He's a good dude. I like him. But yeah. So there's no club racing this past week because I had a lot of my friends were out competing, and as a matter of fact, they're probably still competing right now out in Phoenix at the PN West Coast Regionals. I only have so many days off that I can take per year, and I did the East Coast Regionals, so there was no sense in me going out to the West Coast one, because that's kind of for the West Coast folks, even though, well, people from all over are welcome to attend, obviously. All right. All right, beverage. All right, so we got that done. Let's see if I get some servos in here. Might as well do that. should take this horn off. The servo had a horn on it already. All right. Don't necessarily need to see that on camera, but here we are. All right, I'll just put this over with the spare parts. All right. Try to see if I can clean this up a little bit. May sound silly, but this little makeup brush is pretty good for cleaning stuff in our scale if you're just trying to dust something off. Alrighty. So we'll probably go this route. Not that it matters which one's installed and where, but now that's another design feature, is that servo fits like right in there for where this side piece is at. So yeah, it's going to be tight. If you ever have to replace your servo, because you do that sometimes in F1, you'll trash the servo gears or something. It's an open wheel car, it happens, but you'll have to remove this whole side link mount to get it out of the way just to get this out. So FYI for the future. All right, which bag has all the servo mount stuff in it? It's 3 with that car and 3 with that car. Okay, so we're going bag 3 with both cars. All right. All right, the other thing that my friend, we'll just refer him to the dude. The dude, he gave me some aftermarket parts that he wanted installed on his F1. So occasionally along the way, I'm going to have to actually sort those in to what I'm doing here. So I'm not sure if this is one of the newer ones or not. I'm not as familiar. I know that on the XB1, the servo horn that came in the kit, at least with the original run, the plastic was a little soft, as it turned out, and people were having problems with, after they were hitting a barrier or something, it was actually skipping teeth on the servo, and then their trim would be out of whack. So that's something to look forward, to look out for if you have that issue. Replace your servo horn. But again, I don't know if they fix that issue. That's probably a good question to ask the boss, if I'm being honest. So let me see. Are these all the same length? Well, this one's clearly a little bit longer. That's probably for the servo, if I had to guess. And then that's odd. There's only one servo arm in that. It makes me wonder. All right. There's supposed to be 2 servo arms in that bag. Anyway, we're moving. So there are 3 screws with the same size. Oh, this one goes to the horn. I remember that now. And then I'm going to set the servo horn and one of the screws aside, because there's really no sense in setting or putting the servo horn on until I can power on the servo and get that lined up, which is definitely much later in the process. So I'm just gonna get this servo in here. not going to tighten that up all the way until I get the other one in. Usually whenever there's more than one fastener securing something in there, it's good to wait until you have both of them in so that you can make sure everything lines up right before we snug it down. Alright, just, you got Loctite in here, you don't have to go super heat, man, just firm, but not too tight. Alright, so definitely in later videos I'm thinking about demonstrating some of the cable management and stuff that I choose to do and how to accomplish that. I have found that I have to wire up my servo a certain way to kind of work the way I want it to work. Just on the F1 here, you'll see it later on, but the actual, like when you put the speed control in, you got to watch out for the servo arm here. So I kind of route my wires around the left side if I'm looking at it in this orientation. It really helps out. That's feeling a little bit. Now the screw's rubbing up against the side of the servo. Sorry, dude. It's just kind of. It's got a big head on the screw. Alright, and we'll just, not too tight, just snug it up. There she blows. Alright, so we have this for the servo horn, but this is going to be a good point to, with the this longer screw goes in the side. Then after you put the servo horn on, this is used to kind of tighten up around it a little bit. And we're not actually going to use this servo horn because I got the new aluminum one to put on his car. So I think that'll all just have to be handled a little later. Oh, that's why there's only one in here, because this is for the... Ah, let me go ahead and assemble that so I don't forget. All right. Aluminum. You'll want the aluminum one, trust me. The plastic one, I mean, it tries, but it's gonna break eventually. Because even the most consistent, precise driver inevitably will hit something, and that force goes somewhere. And once we have the front end actually done up the way that it's supposed to be done up, it's that's kind of the weak point in the whole thing is the plastic servo horn. So since we're going metal on metal this time, let me throw a little bit of Loctite on. And that's actually the threaded side, so we need to flip that around. Make sure I'm threading it into the threaded side. Nobody needs to be a dum-dum on YouTube. Alright. Cool. And then the other part of that is we're going to be putting on this turnbuckle, which I will deal with that in a second. The other thing I have, we gotta find the appropriate size, and those. I happen to have some titanium turnbuckles. I'm sorry, the titanium ball studs to use for the turnbuckles. We'll just kind of dump those out over here. All right, so we're gonna take these two and put that in the no bag. We'll use these two. All right. I'm going to give a huge shout out to my fellow racer, Grant Boyd, who also is a huge fan of shock shaft pliers. Me too. Here's why. It's really, really good to hold on to turnbuckles and dampers and everything else. So I'm going to examine this, and it looks like my threads are righty-tighty on this one. So I'll just try to square this up a little bit. And I'll just do a little rotation with my wrist and a little bit of rotation with my hand. Try to get it on square. And yeah, that's going on great. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up. Finger tight until it wants to stop, which is about right there. And then I can still grab it to where it's in there like that, but still sticking out this way. Now this one is going to be counterclockwise, so I will start the thread, and then we're going to turn that squarely. I want to make sure that's going on even too. And then we'll just do this finger tight until it stops. And then in the notes here, there's, I think, a 1.3 fits in that hole a little better. Sometimes I just like to. The reason I'm trying to tighten these up all the way, even though we're supposed to be making it a certain length, is because once it's tightened up all the way, you'll see that these have a small hole on one side and a big hole on the other. So I'm going to take one of them, and I'm just going to make it to where the small holes are up top. Cool. Now, what I can do is I can put wrenches in each of the ball cups here. Then I can adjust this like a regular turnbuckle. Now for this F1, it says that the inside gap needs to be 5.7 millimeters. So right now, make sure we're zeroed out. We need to make that go out a little bit. So since I have this, the way I have it, we'll support it like this. And I feel like that's going the wrong way. Okay, so pull it towards us. Yep, that's going out. All right. And that helps me do both sides at the same time, keep the same distance on the threads. That tends to be pretty helpful. A little bit more. All right, let's see where we're at now. We're getting close. Maybe a little bit more. Just don't want that to focus on the tool. What do you think? That's 5.7 to me. All right. So, and then we drop things. That is like the official RC car tradition of dropping things and then having to go under the bench and find it later. Well, luckily, obviously, you can find this, so not a big deal. All right. So now that I have this turnbuckle the way it's supposed to be, I'm going to go ahead and equip one of these titanium ball studs. And we're actually going to thread it. You'll see there's two sides to this. There's like where the arm, let's sit that there. You'll see how the arm kind of sticks out one way versus the other. This head of this screw needs to be facing towards the front of the car when this mounts. And what that's going to do, I'll just go ahead and push this on the servo. Any old way it'll go. Hold on. I'm pretty sure this will just fit on there. Might have a little bit of first time jitters here. But anyways, what I was trying to say is once this is I'll put on all the way, you'll notice that this is recessed this way, and this will allow that that ball cup and everything to clear your speed control. So you'll want the head of the screw facing forward when that time comes. Also, you have two different settings here. You have a low hole and a high hole. This is for the Ackerman of the servo horn. Obviously, the bottom hole is gonna make a smaller circle if it were to rotate on its axis. So this will get you further out quicker versus if you use the top hole, it'll make a bigger circle. So it's going to have to rotate more to get that same effect. You know, it's longer out this way. So you can kind of play with that. It'll control the response basically. So like how fast your steering moves off of center. If you're finding that when you're on a straightaway and you know like you're turning a wheel and the car's moving like too quickly, this might actually be a spot you can actually make an adjustment there, and it can control how responsive, you know, how quickly your wheels will turn. And I've actually used that setting, and it's helped me out in different track situations that I've been in. I'll tell you what, I don't know if like there's a cat in the factory or something. There's just so much little hairs on this. It's probably just from when they milled this. I would venture to say. All right. Well, now that's the other part of this is I could put this on here, but I don't have this powered on and centered. So what I'm going to do in light of that is just snap this on here. And that's another important thing is you want to make sure that this falls under its own weight, which it does not. I have seen other folks that are having issues with stuff not trimming back to center, and the ball cups end up being one of the things. So sometimes you can just kind of work it around a little bit, and that can help. I found the mold quality to actually be pretty nice on these ball cups, but be careful if you're going to use a ball cup reamer. It's very easy to strip these out because they're not as deep as other ones. They're a bit more shallow, and if you ream them out too much, they won't stay on the ball. So this is clearly still giving us problems. So one of the other things I like to do come over here and grab another piece of hardware is a handy dandy power drill. And what I'm going to choose to do here is I'm going to chuck up this other titanium ball stud on the drill. Just where it clicks. There we go. All right. Then I'll put the ball cup on, and then I'm just going to spin it around. And when I do, I'm gonna kind of move it on the axis, so I'm not just like going in the one spot all the time. And also maybe an OCD thing that I do, but I like to go the other way too. Maybe back the other way again. And the trick here is that you're trying to keep doing this until it falls under its own weight, which is not doing much of that. So kind of just trying to polish the inside of that a little bit. Doesn't seem to be working out the way I'd intended. Well, the other thing you could do, which is a practice I've kind of gotten out of doing, but you can squeeze very lightly. And I try to do it on the part of the jaws that is not knurled. You can squeeze it just a little bit, and then that'll help stretch out the plastic. And then that's actually a pretty notoriously good way to do that. So if you're using my technique doesn't work, Sometimes it just needs a little squeeze. And sorry if this is really loud. Maybe that works a little bit better when there's some polish in there or something. Anyways, sometimes we can just pretend you didn't see that. Then I'll just give that a little squeeze, and then it'll fall under its own weight. Okay, so even though that's a technique I use from time to time, it is not working out great this time. So anyways, there's going to need to be a pivot ball in that anyway, so I will just leave it be. And then I will attach the other end of it to this. Make sure it falls under its own weight. Beautiful. And then we're going to set it aside, because until I can power that on, there's no sense in doing anything with it. I will put the screw that needs to go into the servo over there. Outstanding. All right. So we have that part done. Let's see what I want to do next. Any more chassis work? Yeah, let's go ahead and do the side links and stuff. That's going to be bag 4 with the GT car and 4 with the F1. They kind of sort of match up, but not always. Alright, so this is the F1 parts. It's very eager. Alright. Put everything on there. The adjustability of the Xbility platform. Let me talk about that for a second. So, a lot of people look at this and they go, man, there's so many different things that you can adjust on this car. It's kind of intimidating. And I felt that way too when I first looked at it, but I'm also a tinkerer, so, I kind of enjoyed the idea. I will say, after running these cars for some time here, you really don't mess with it a whole lot, to be honest. You just, like, it's just like any other car. Yes, you can change things, but you don't really mess with it. So, just to give you a little bit of confidence when you buy the car, is that once you get it set up, it's going to be pretty easy from there. Now, I will say, too, the front end does take some patience to set up, because you've got the pillow ball style, like, it's kind of emulating 8th scale, and that is, I don't know, like, the lower balls will, if you thread them in or thread them out, that adjusts your track width, and then the upper balls do camber. But they also affect each other. So if you unscrew the bottom one, obviously you got to reset the top one, and that can be a testing of patience, because, obviously you set the track width first, and then you go to town on, making sure your camber's right, but you also kind of have to simultaneously adjust your camber screw, just so that, like, you're not binding up all the linkages and stuff, just, steering knuckle and the kingpin and all that. So, a 4-hour-long video of Nick unbagging things. Yay! I'm genuinely surprised nobody's talked to me in chat yet. Aw. No, it's okay. The main reason I'm doing this way is so that I don't have to edit the video. I can just say, hey, it was a live stream. What do you want me to do? Half the time I don't even have the time to work on my own cars. So, plus, my cars are already built, so I can't show you me building a car, because I already did. I could show you, like, rebuilding the car. I could take it apart and clean it, put it back together. That'd be fine, but may not be as informative. maybe do something that would pretty much make this like an AI video. Well, we're not going to go there. All right. Cherry Coke is done. Switching to Dr. K and cream soda. Always important to have a nice, refreshing beverage. All right. So, the F1 is getting some extra goodies during this step. We got the stainless steel pivot balls. You don't need these. However, I have found I have lost screws in my side links before. So, like, during a race, and it's caused me to have to retire. So I'm really paranoid about, making sure those are tight. And when you got an aluminum ball and then like a steel screw, it's really easy to kind of strip that out sometimes. So that's where I'm kind of going, okay, these steel ones would be ones that I would prefer to use. Just because, I can put them in there, I can, give it some Loctite, and then I can tighten them up. So we're going to put these aluminum ones over here. The other thing I've been thinking about, and, sometimes your assumption on something is wrong. It's okay. We're these, so I'll just do this. But they also weigh more. So having them on the lowest point of the car, which is alongside of the chassis, is going to add more weight down low, maybe improve your CG. But it also, at least on the rearward part where the pod's at, that does add to unsprung weight. So it's kind of a give and take a little bit. All right, so these two longer screws are going to be for front, but I need to make sure that I get these screws in. Okay. Focusing on this real quick. These are all the same screw, but they're the square kind of headed ones. And you'll notice there's a really tiny hole on one side and a big hole on the other. So it threads into the tiny hole. So, hold on. I'm very, very lucky that a fold in my t-shirt caught that. I will not be so lucky next time. So I will be grateful that I'm not having to waste your time in this video to go down and find a screw on the floor. All right, so this is going to take a 1.3 driver. There's a few. I know the pillow balls, or at least the titanium ones, it will be 1.3 on the driver. What I choose to do is, first you got to make sure that it's actually threading into the other side. I see it's spreading that out a little bit. So I'm going to back it out, put it back in a little bit. Yeah, okay, now it's threading good, and you see it's tightening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back this out, and I'm going to make it to where I can still see a little bit of metal between the shaft over here and in there. These do not need to be tight. The only thing that screw's really doing is keeping this plastic fork from flaying outward, like under impact or whatever. But you can use these to tighten up the pivot ball, but you don't want to. The way that the pivot balls have been fitting on these molded plastics has actually been impressive. I haven't found a whole lot of need to really like over tighten that. So let's just make sure that these side links have their screws in them. Now that one I see a little bit of a plastic mold burr. Let me see if I can get that out of there. Another favorite tool I have of mine, flush cutters. These are awesome. All right. Actually, I might, before I put the balls in here, I'm just going to chase those holes out with an X-Acto knife. just make sure that we got all the little burrs, because even the tiniest little stupid burr can ruin your car. It just won't drive right. And you'd be like, why is it not driving right? And it's like, oh, it's because you have one little burr that you didn't get that's inhibiting the proper movement. All right. Man, already almost an hour into this. Well, that's what I get. All right, so we got the screws in. I'm going to find my X-Acto, and I'll just lightly scrape the edges here. Just make sure I got all the mold flashing out of there. That looks pretty good. Looks like I got a little bit to scrape out here. Now the flashing should just scrape off real easy. If you really have to work for it, you might actually be cutting into the material. So just be careful. You're kind of just trying to drag that blade along the edge. You're not trying to make a deep cut or nothing. Just trying to make sure that any little flappy burr is taken care of. And I really wish I could make this focus. If I'm using the actual camera on my phone to like shoot like a regular video, I can actually make that focus. And that's pretty nice. But come on, you get it? It's still there. There she goes. All right. That one looks pretty good. All right, clean that off. Back in the bag it goes. All right. So we have these pivot balls. Again, there's going to be a small side and a big side. You want to make sure you mind that. So you're sticking it in the side that is wider to accept it. And it looks like there's almost like some like shininess to this top side. I think that's the top and this is the bottom. But then, yeah, they're both going to face that way. So you just line the ball up in there and just push it into place. It's wonderful because that's something we don't do a whole lot of once the car's together, but before it's put together. Okay, so you got the big hole, small hole, so push these into the big side. And if they don't just go, maybe there's a reason. Could it be that my pinching power is diminished in my old age? Maybe. Why is it not just going in? I don't have the screw too tight. Here, try to get 2 thumbs on it. It's a 2-thumb push. All right. Now, little tip. I'm going to take one of these longer screws. And I'm just going to thread it in to this ball stud a little bit. And what I'm looking for is whether or not that falls under its own weight, which right now it does not. So here's my trick, or at least my method. I won't call it a trick, it's just a method. I am going to grab the 1-3, not the 1-5. I'm going to deliberately snug that up just a little bit to where it's like really, really, really tight. And then I'm going to move this ball around. I kind of just work that in there. And go clockwise, counterclockwise, just rotating it around. Then I'm going to have that to where it's angled upwards. And I'm going to loosen it up until it falls. See if I can get that in a way where you can see it. Or I'm going to pull it out. Does it fall? Okay. Well, it does. Okay. So push it upwards. By over tightening it, I'm stretching the plastic a little bit so that now that I back it out, you see it fall. Cool. So now it's got a little bit more free movement. Let me see if I continue to loosen it. It'll vibrate down. But I just want it to flop. So let me just back this screw all the way out. So I got a gap in there again. Now it doesn't. Let me try that again. Tighten it up. Just enough to see that I'm squeezing. Make it tight. Move it around a little. Go the other way. Just stretching the plastic just ever so slightly. So that when I loosen the screw where there's that tiniest of little gaps, it's pretty free. There's not a whole lot of weight on this screw too, but I'm going to keep working this. This is the time-consuming part of any build, as you're trying to desperately make sure that everything moves freely. Because if it doesn't, anything that binds up in the car is going to cause the car to do really weird stuff. So I'm just going to continue to work this until I feel like it's going to fall under its own weight without any issue. If anybody else has any tips on how they do this, I am definitely all ears, because this is like one of the most important parts of anything. And there you go. You see how that just falls? That's what you want. Now, if it were to be too loose, you tighten it up a little bit. So let's go that route. We've made it to where you can have a little bit of a gap between the head of the screw and the plastic there. And it just falls. So I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. Still falls. Tighten it up a little bit more. We're going to get it all right. So we're to the point where that's binding now. This is where we want to be. So I'm going to very slowly loosen it up until it falls. Well, it fell a little bit. Now, sometimes I like to tighten it back up a little bit. Okay, so now it sticks. I'm going to loosen it like ever so slightly until it flinches. I'm trying to find that equilibrium. So now it sticks there. But if I turn it just a little bit, now it doesn't. It's a stupid little thing, but I just want it. I don't want it too loose, but I want it to fall under its own weight. So, all right, I'm happy with that one. So, hold on, switch wrenches. There we go. Now we'll put it on the other one. I've heard some people say, oh, it'll break in on its own. I'm like, I don't know, man. Whenever I set my car down on the track, the last thing I want to be thinking about is, did I do enough? You know, it's like, all right, so let me loosen that up a little bit. Can't even twist it in the hole. There we are. Working it around. All right. Let me tighten it a little more. Make it where it's really hard to move. That's kind of what I had to do last time. All right. Then we're going to loosen it up to the point where there's a gap between the head of the screw and the collar. And she's floppy floppy. Alright. Still floppy floppy. Seriously, like, take time to do this right, and you're going to thank yourself later because you'll know that you didn't rush something in the assembly process that's causing the problem that you're seeing on track. And then you'll chase it and you won't know why, and then you'll get like a friend that's like, here, let me rebuild your car for you, maybe I can figure it out. And then all they're going to do is this when they put it back together, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know what happened, man, your car's working fine now. All right. All right. We make it where it is straight up and down so I can just loosen it. This is tedious work, but it needs to be done. All right, so I want to tighten it up with the slightest amount. Doesn't stick. Tighten it up the slightest amount. Doesn't stick. Tighten it up a little more. It sticks. Okay, so there's our little sweet spot. We just gotta loosen it up a little bit. It still sticks. Loosen it up a little more. Little more. If it still sticks. I mean, I realize me putting the wrench in there and vibrating, it's making it go down, but it shouldn't stick up there at all. So now we're kind of there. We'll call that good. All right, switch wrenches. And I'm going to put that one over here to symbolize that I've done it already. Because I find myself questioning, did I do this one already? The answer is no, I did not. There's no way I did this one. So, but yeah, part of my trick is just I'm putting this long screw in here so that I have something to act as an indicator for whether or not this pivot ball is working freely. Switch. Now about an hour and 8 minutes into it already. Well, what time is it? I still got plenty of time. I think it might be better to just make one long live stream than to make separate ones. We'll see. All right, we'll take it back out. All right, loose. Loose. Starting to tighten up on it. All right, so now we're stuck up. A little too tight. I would definitely check this kind of thing when you rebuild too. Just, if you get around to cleaning the car and you take it all apart, like, check this once in a while. Because plastics have a way of just stretching out, especially like impacts and stuff like that. And you want to make sure that you don't need to like replace the side link. It's funny because when I first started driving these kind of pan cars, I was always like, oh, all the plastics, I need to change them out all the time. And then I end up having like 400 side links, and it's like they're not really bad. Sometimes you straight up break them. Yeah, it's like, okay, replace them, but I mean, if the car's still running good and it still feels good, then I don't know that replacing stuff is necessarily going to be the answer to anything you're looking for as far as success. But If something's weird with the car and you just can't figure it out, yeah, replace everything. Why not? It's pretty much like giving yourself a new car. Who doesn't love a new car? I mean, everybody on The Price is Right always got excited about it, right? I have a good friend who is very, very meticulous in how he prepares his cars when he's going to like travel events and stuff, and he'll pull like all nighters for like 5 days in a row and all this stuff. And I don't know if I'm there yet. I am not that much of a winner. I'm sometimes lucky to even get in the A main in some of the classes that I run. But I got some good people around me now that are giving me some good advice. Not that the people I was getting advice from before were giving me bad advice. It's just you get different advice from different people, and when you got a bigger sampling of people to get advice from, it tends to benefit you a little bit because you're not getting the same advice over and over and over again. Oh no. Get that screw out of there. Alright, so now we've dressed for that car. How nauseating is it that I gotta do that same damn thing over here? Yep. We're building 2 cars on this live stream, and the cool thing is now that I kind of have my process figured out, maybe this time will be a little quicker than last. Alright. I'm going to try an experiment on this one. Well, no, I'm not. Because without the actual ball being in there, I don't know that, like, tightening it up all the way is even going to help, because it'll just bend the fork together, but it's not, like, stretching the plastic in the way that we want. So I'm just going to get these screws in here, and we'll do what we did. Got to deburr the hole and all that good stuff. All right. Oh, let's deburr some holes here. I don't see anything worthwhile in that one. Do I see a burr on that hole, or is it just a weird glare? Right towards the top of the hole on this side. Needs a little scrape. Maybe this side too. It's also kind of funny about having new friends, new teammates, that kind of stuff is sometimes you're like, hey, check out this thing that I do. And they're like, no, don't do that. I think that's bad. I'm like, why is it bad? And then you learn something, because then they offer you a new perspective on something that you maybe didn't consider. So I know there's a particular way I care for my tires that alarmed some of my friends. But it works for me, so. Alright, let's get these in here. Where did it go? Alright, I'm just going to grab the other one. Oop, I found it. Oh, I think that the new trick is just like have like weird folds in your shirt from when you're sitting down, because that's the second time that it's caught the thing I dropped. That never happens. So I thought about inventing like some kind of apron that'll like clip to the table you're working on, so that anything you drop will just fall into the apron. That is I don't know if I have any entrepreneurial friends here in the scale that wanted to maybe make a few bucks off of that. I'm too busy to worry about it, but yeah, if you guys want to make some money, then there you go. Just make the pit space apron. It'll help you keep from crawling on all fours in front of everybody else trying to find something you dropped under the table. Probably make good money. I don't know why I do this to myself. I always give everybody else all the good ideas instead of acting on them myself. I could be making retirement money. Or like some people I know that can just do this full time because they don't have jobs anymore. They've made their money. Maybe that should be a goal of mine. I'll just sell weird, useless trinkets to a niche market until I can make enough money to retire. All right. Tighten it up a little bit. Still wiggly. I'm going to keep tightening it until it doesn't wiggle no more. That's stuck. I'm going to back it out a little bit. Still kind of stuck. So I'm going to back it out a little more. Wobbly. Yay. All right, next one. Because at this point in the stream that I looked up and realized that the only person watching my stream is me. Nice. I get it. It's Sunday. And this is probably not the most exciting thing in the world. I'm doing this for the dude. Because he needs to see all the TLC I put into building his cars. Give it a little wiggle wiggle. Wait for it to fall. Yeah, it's taking a lot to make that fall. There she goes. All right, pop it up. Fall, pop. Here's that friction point, so just back it off a little bit. And I'm happy with that. Alright, so I'm just tightening that up. So you get that focus. We're squeezing the forks together. I'm going to rotate this a little bit. Alright, and then I want to put it upwards. And again. Just until it falls. There she goes. Tighten her back up a little bit. Gotta find that perfect point where she falls under her own weight. Alright. loosen that up a little bit. There she goes. All right. Hold on. I can grab this tool on this side. All right. Well, all right. So now we have those done. Oh, man. I'm going to take a second to stretch after that. But this is the wonderful art of kit building, is sometimes you have tasks that you have to accomplish that are tedious. But my friend, lovingly referred to as the dude in this context, is going to get a lot of good use out of this, so I want to make sure it's right. All right. So there is a countersunk side and a flat side. The countersunk side faces up. And we got these nice little guide pins that'll allow it to just sit in place. That makes my job a little easier. I'm going to put the 1-3 back up there so it's just out of my way. All right. Metal on metal always gets the Loctite. Just a little dab. That was actually a little too much, so I'm going to dab it off on a rag off camera here. All right. Just snug enough. No need to be He-Man. Just snug enough. The other thing I think would be really nice to use the stainless steel pivot balls is because if you're not careful, you can actually crush the aluminum ones. So that's another thing where it's like maybe, my super He-Man grip, maybe it's not the best suited for this. All right, so you're going to want the threaded parts and the sleeves facing upwards. So this also has two positions. You can do an outer or an inner position, and both of those help with changing the angle of the side links to produce more rear steer. I have not yet found that to be a tuning aid that I am messing with. Doesn't mean I won't. Okay, so you got 6 of these little half mil shims. And there's going to be 3 for each side, so we're going to go ahead and put this on the screw, just so I have all 3 of them together. I'm going to pull them off all together. So I have a stack of 3 in my hand. The reason being is because you got to put this screw. Oh, I forgot that actually threads. Stand by. Thought I was going to be slick. So this doesn't just slide from side to side. This will actually kind of thread in. So let's just kind of get it all the way in there. And then we can take our 3 shims and place it on screw. A secondary tuning option for adjusting the rear steer on your car is choosing how many shims you want there. You can keep your side links level, and it'll be standard. But then if you angle them, then that creates rear steer. All right. So as long as you have these screws facing outwards, it's correct. So you can just go ahead and thread that in. I like to get it started with one driver and my finger, just so it's kind of there. And then I have to have a second 1.5 driver. Now here's my thing. I know that one of these is not as good as the other as far as how it fits in the screw. So I'm going to put that on the steel side, and we're going to use the better fitting of the 2 on the aluminum side, which on this one is actually the steel side. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. And just, all right, hold on. Failure. All right, let's Loctite that first. Otherwise, I'm going to be driving down a straightaway, doing really good, and then my side link's going to pop off and my car is going to drive right into a rail. Been there, done that. Alright, so just a decent snug. Beautiful. Let's do the other side. Just making sure I had that in the outer hole. Alright, so we got that in there. 3 shims. 1. Tools. 3. Loctite, an essential piece of the puzzle here. Just enough to coat the threads. And then as long as the adjustment screw is facing outward, you are good. You can start that in that way. Get your secondary driver. Again, well, on the other one, I'm definitely going to have to make a big deal out of that. But actually, no. Let's develop good habits now. Right, haven't bought my new MIP drivers yet, so I heard those were pretty fantastic. So, as you can see, the links will flop around under their own weight, as they should. So that's pretty bad. In the A department, BA, as some people will say. Alright, now I need to put these on here, just like I did with the other car. Countersink side goes up. You know, sometimes when I get to doing this stuff for a while, like, I almost need to, like, get up and walk around for a little while. There's, like, I don't know, like, tedious amounts of activity and focus sometimes can be a little draining. That's a lot. Let me dip that off. There we go. Alright. So, let's go ahead and top hole. That one goes in a lot easier than the other one did. Whoever drilled these holes had a good day. Alright. Right that in there. Sometimes I get a little bit of positive pressure in my bottle here, and it just kind of oozes the Loctite out of it. Not necessarily the best thing in the world, but sometimes it actually helps me put the proper amount of Loctite on there. Alright, adjustment screw facing outward. We'll get started on this. Alright. Then I want to put this on the aluminum side. I've already kind of rounded this other driver a little bit. And there she goes. That side's done. We'll do this side. I could probably put some music on or something like that, but then you know, these like copyright strikes and stuff. Oh, some people don't have that problem. I could put my own music on. You know, I used to make music back in the day. Maybe that's a novel idea. But I don't know. Sometimes you get, like, I've got my old music on, like, YouTube and Spotify and stuff, and I don't know if they're going to have some, like, janky, like, copyright protection service where it's like, you know, YouTube's going to copyright strike me for something that I literally own a official from the United States government copyright on, and then have to go through the whole process of going, no, that's my music and I have the right to use it if I want to. There's a, forget, like CD Baby or something like that. They had that problem where they were copyright striking people on their own stuff. It was no fun. Okay, let's put a rear end together. I think that's what I want to do next. All right, bag 5, both cars. All right. Whoa. I think the one thing that this live stream is missing is the fact that this is my first one, and I don't have an audience yet, so I don't have people that are just going to show up and be like, oh yeah, let me hang out. Let me ask you questions and talk to you. And yeah, we'll get that sometime. Maybe. I don't know. Gotta be cool first. All right. So, rear ends, Xbility. Here's the thing that I didn't know at first, but I know now, is that this screw back here is not your droop screw. I thought for sure it was. You know, I was getting my ride height set, and then I was just backing this off, giving myself like a 1/2 mil gap, and saying, okay, I got a 1/2 mil of droop. No, this is your pod angle screw. What this does is it adjusts your pod angle relative to the chassis. So obviously, you have it up, you're going to have more rear grip. You have it down, you're going to have less rear grip. Like, that's intentional. So what they recommend in the kit of that 2 millimeters, that's your standard setting. So let me zoom out of this a little bit so I can see. Okay, so they're saying 2 millimeters out the top. I think that's right. So let's make sure that our friend at the factory in Vietnam did this correctly. Not as... it's in there. Let's adjust it. I'm not going to disparage somebody. That ain't my thing. Well, the one thing I wasn't clear about was whether or not it's supposed to be sticking 2 millimeters out the bottom or 2 millimeters out the top. Let me... hold on. I want to get the answer to that first. Trying to look on this. All right. Well, I'm going to assume, because you want a 2 millimeter gap on the bottom. I know that for sure. So let's just go with that route. Because the total length of this is 5 mil. And it's like 1.5. So technically, if you have 2 coming out the bottom, you'd have 2 coming out the top too. So I'm going to make 2 coming out the bottom because I know that the gap between this carbon plate and the chassis is 2 millimeters. So we're just going to go that route. A little bit more. Ooh, almost right on the money. I'm going to take that out just the slightest amount because I have self-diagnosed OCD, so I want this to be perfect. Alright, we'll call that perfect. So, whatever that bug is, get out of here. Summertime, gotta love it. Alright, so I just wanted to talk about that because I always thought that that's how you set droop. The droop is actually a little different with this car, is that you actually set the droop while you're setting ride height. So once you get the car put together, you have new tires on, you have it sitting there, and you essentially put your droop in with the main adjustment nut. Then you have to adjust your ride height with the ride height pills, you know, the eccentrics that hold the rear axle. So it was just a thing. But since I started doing it the correct way, my car felt better to drive. So I encourage you to consider that. Alright, so this is... Let's go ahead and get this set up on this one real quick. Just going to drive it in there a little bit more. A little bit more than a little bit more. My wife just came home. That means we will be hanging out before too long. Hopefully, I can get these cars to a point at least. Back it out a little bit. I'm probably putting way too much attention into the screw than what I need to. But sometimes you gotta do what feels right. It's my time to waste. Hell yeah. Alright. Let's have fun building rear ends, guys. I'm going to go ahead and move these chassis over y'all. I'm going to move these extra titanium parts over here so I can slide this stuff over here. Maybe bring it a little bit closer to me. Alright. Get some dirt. Alright. So this side has motor mount, this side does not, so we can just key this into the carbon fiber because we got these wonderful little pegs that help it key into these wonderful little holes. One of the things I feel makes it a pleasant experience for assembling. Kind of helps hold the piece in place while you're putting screws in and stuff. Kind of fun. Alright, so that's motor mount side. And this is the other side. It's kind of nice you put this in the carbon fiber. It's a pretty snug fit, so you gotta line it up and give it a little bit of effort to put it in there. There we go. Alright, so we got that one done. We'll just carry on over here too. Alright, so this is the top. Put that piece in. Alright, so now we can just go to town with some screws. Alright, kind of sort my pile out a little bit. So these pieces go over here. These are my axle pills. And another one of these. And all the rest of these are just, well, almost all of them. There's two of them that go for this brace here that are rounded, and then the rest of them are flat. Alright, So we're going to grab our 1.5. A little bit of Loctite, just a little goes a long way. And in the hole we go. Now, I like to wait until all 4 screws are in before I give them the final snug. Hour and 41 minutes. Either I'm really slow at building kits, or building kits just takes time. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why my friend asked me to do this, because he doesn't have the time. Very, very busy person. All right. Using my calibrated wrist, I'm tightening this to whatever number I make up, inch pounds. All right. That's done. Same thing for the other car. Round screw. Another one of those screws. Round screw, axle pills. That goes there. And then we got these. Okay. Yeah, this rear pod's pretty simple, actually. Not a lot to it. Ooh. You fell off. You're not supposed to fall off. Let me get my driver out of there. I can put that back in the hole. Whoever drilled the pilot holes on this particular day at this particular factory used a new cutting head, maybe. I don't know. Get a screw into this side to help hold it in there. There we go. Yeah, I think doing a live stream of kit building is kind of helpful, but it would probably be more helpful if I did one where I was like showing how to do like nifty things, you know, like things that not everybody knows how to do. Because there's plenty of people who know how to build a kit. You know, that's the audience for this particular one is either you just want to see how I do it, or you know, maybe watching somebody else do it makes it easier for you to do it, which I wholeheartedly support that idea, because I'm definitely, you know, analysis paralysis, but then I see somebody else doing it and I'm like, oh, that's easy. I can do that. So now I put the Loctite on before I put it through the carbon, which is not the most terrible thing in the world, but then again, I could probably put the screw through first. Now, the other thing I've been known to do from time to time, this is maybe a pro tip, is you can actually place a little bit of Loctite in the actual threads and then put the screw in there. The only thing I don't like about that is you tend to push all that Loctite out the bottom. I'm going to put some on the actual threads. I was doing it that way for a while, but I realized like a lot of that Loctite's just going to come right out this bottom hole. And then I have to get in there with my Q-tip and clean that up. Nobody wants that there. See, this side I shouldn't have to clean out nothing. But, and because I double applied Loctite, I may just have to clean up where that oozed out. All right. But if you really wanted to, what you could do, you can put these screws through the carbon first, then you could apply the Loctite to it. Probably going to be the cleanest way, because you use the least amount of Loctite and you make the least amount of a mess. small dab and a small dab. All right. And on to the pod we go. Get both screws in there all the way before I snug. Snug. And snug. All right. And this is a fun piece too, because this goes here on the bottom. And it's also got its little pilot holes. So you can press that into place. And then this top piece, you'll want to make sure that the protrusion for the shock is facing forward. But hold on a second. That only goes one way. Oh yeah, I remember. So you are using these screws. But this is going to be above, so they don't need to be like countersunk or anything, because they're going to... This is above the bottom of the chassis anyway, so a little bit of Loctite. This live stream is brought to you by Nick's bottle of Loctite. Yay! Alright. Are these 1-3s? I think those are 1-3s. Yeah, I think so. Let's get this one side in and get that answer real quick. No. It is 1-5. Alright, well, let's loosen this up a little bit so I can get this other screw where it needs to be. Alright. I've done this before, but it was a long time ago, so... Well, relatively long time ago. I mean, who thinks about this stuff? It's like, oh, I did this like 2 months ago. Or 2 weeks ago. You got a good memory. You can remember everything. That's great. Okay, I'm just rambling. Anyways. Somebody's going to come up to me at a race. Be like, oh man, I watched your live stream where you built those Xbility cars, man. That was awesome. And I'm just going to be like, good Lord. You actually sat through that? Man, you need an award. All right. We'll make sure this is going in the right way. I had the bright idea of like, there's so many similarities between the two cars. I'm going to build them at the same time. Would that be like the movie Office Space? You know what I'd do if I had $1 million? I'd build 2 kits at the same time. Or something like that. I did select the option that my videos were not made for children. But no need to directly quote the movie. Just in case. I got a young man that I race with that I don't know if his parents would appreciate my language. Alright, so we got 2 little rear ends. They're exactly the same, guys. And then we got the little axle pills. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them in the hole here. Now, they do make option ones for different ride height. That is definitely a recommended part to buy because you need to be able to control your rear ride height. So the kit comes with the 0, so where it's perfectly centered. I found a lot of times you need like 0.2 or 0.4. Alrighty, so now we have that part, but we can't fasten this to the rear pod until we get the central mount. So let me see what baggie I need for that. Oh, definitely. I'm trying to act like I already did all that. I haven't done that yet. Alright. Well, let me see. What bag number am I going to next? Because I need to build that part. Well, now it wants me to build. Oh, okay, here we go. The pivot mount, bag 7. Bag 6? Or is it just step 6? Oh, I see. Alright. Oh. Alright. You gotta be kidding me. 6, 7. Alright. Let's just start here. Interesting. All right. There's a known fact amongst us Xbility owners. And that fact is that this red central pivot ball, not the best. The titanium pillow ball set, it will come with 4 titanium pillow balls for the front, for the A-arms, but it will come with an extra one, and that extra one is for the center pivot. I did not know that right away. I thought they just were giving me an extra one for giggles, but nope, it was for the center pivot. And I've actually had problems with the card where that center pivot kind of came loose and got bent and all sorts of stuff. So titanium. And on that note, I'm talking. Sorry, my getting away from the microphone here. I'm talking about something that I actually have here that I could physically show you, I think. Wait a second, I thought I did. Oh. Maybe we don't. 'Cause that's not the right kind of pivot ball. We search through the bag, make sure I didn't mistakenly put it somewhere. Sorry guys, intermission. Looking for parts. Got a lot of good stuff in here, huh? Alright. Except for the titanium. Alright. Well, heck. Alright. So the front pillow balls and this little guy. Replace it with the titanium ones. But he didn't have that, so we're going to just move on without. Okay, so looking at orientations here. All right, so I'm seeing that this side does not have a little lip. That side has a little lip. And that little lip is likely there to receive the plastic sleeve here. So I'm going to put the plastic sleeves on both sides. On the side with that little bit of a machined clearance. That's what that's for. And then there's this little squared off head screw. This is to tighten up the pivot ball, just like we did with the side links. We're going to do with this too. So I'm going to insert the screw, not tight, just I'm going to get it in there. And probably use my Q-tip to just dab off any extra Loctite. Because what we got to do still is we got to thread this through. Not like that. All right. I'm laughing at myself right now. All right, let's put that back together the way it should go. And then maybe I want to go ahead and tighten up that screw a little bit so that it'll help this stay in place. Yeah, there we go. That helps. All right, so here we are. Ball is out and it's floppy. So tightening that up a little bit. And now it stays. It's looking awfully proud. So get that in there and then we'll loosen it very slowly until it falls. I'll make sure I can put it up and it just falls right back down. Cool. Well, how much of that's just... All right, if I throw it up and down, it falls right back down. If I push it up and down, it stays. So maybe tighten it up a little bit. All right, so that's definitely binding. Binding a little bit. I'm going to take that out just a little tiny bit more. All right, cool. We're going to do the same with this side. Just make sure your center pivot is held securely, but it is not binding, because if the center pivot binds, again, it's going to cause all sorts of weird problems in your car. And you'll be like, why is my car driving like a turd? Then you're going to shake your fist and be like, man, this car sucks. And be like, no, the car doesn't suck. Nick sucks. Because he didn't show you how to build it right. Make sure I'm not holding on to the actual head of the ball there. Alright, wait for it to fall. Well, now I'm pretty much all the way out. Tighten it up again. Just working around this plastic bushing a little bit. There we go. Oop. I just pushed out the hole. Tighten it up a little. Kind of snug. It definitely doesn't want to be retained in there. Tighten that up a little more. We'll see. Yep, that's definitely binding. Binding. That's pretty free. It can still bind if I make it bind, but if I pull it up and let it go like that, it falls. So close enough for metal, as I would once say. All right, so now I have that, but what is this bag supposed to come with? So those two, I'm wondering if I mixed up my parts. All right, so you've got these like nice little counterboard holes, and these screws will go in that. Maybe go ahead and poke those through. This is going to attach the center pivot to the chassis. All right. So now we're going to take a center pivot like this. Eventually, we got to actually attach this to the pivot first. All right. Loctite. Capital Loctite. The blue stuff. You got to make sure this is secure. And one of the random pills fell out. The other thing I should have done before I applied Loctite was you're going to put that shim in there. Because you need to put one shim as a spacer. I'm just going to go ahead. I don't care if I make a mess. I want Loctite on this because this backed out on me at an event and it caused me a hard time. So let's make sure that's secure. All right, once we snug up. Cool. Here, I'm just going to put those eccentric pills over here off camera. All right. Just evaluating. Cool. All right. Now, we're going to butter these up too. A little bit of Loctite. And you got to sleeve this back part over this shaft. And you can kind of set that down in the general area that it goes into. And you'll tighten up a little bit on one side, and then you'll line the other side up and tighten it up too. Bring them in together. See, I'm not even lining that up right. That's why I did a little bit on the one side first. All right, so now bring that in till it touches. Bring that in till it touches. Gentle snug, because you don't want to break the carbon fiber. All right. And this is being overly difficult because I forgot to remove the side link out of the way. All right. So, as you can see, that'll stay up. Not that it would ever travel that far in real life anyway, but I feel like my pivot ball is a little too snug. So, the adjustment screw is accessible from the bottom. I can just loosen that up a tad and see how she goes. Let's get this out of the way. I still feel like that is too snug because, well, now that screw is pretty much backed all the way out. Is that too snug because of how snug the other thing is? Interesting. I'm going to over tighten it on purpose. And then I want to loosen it back up. Oh, there we go. It just seems like you just got to work it around. Just move it for up and down, side to side. Just gimbal it around. Because now it's a little bit more free. Okay, so at least going to tighten that up to the point where it's not going to fall out on its own. Just really weirded out by that. Well, let's see if the other kit does the same thing. Alright, so this one attaches over here. We'll remember to put this in first. Put that on the driver. All right. Sometimes I like to put it in a little, back it out, put it in a little, back it out. All right. It's snugly. All right. Now, with this chassis, the F1 only has singular holes for this, but this chassis actually has it where you can move the pivot forward and backwards. When you do that, you're supposed to be adding or subtracting these shims in here. So this is set up to go in the middle hole. So I'm going to go ahead and put that over that. And then I want to position the center pivot to kind of be approximately where it needs to be. Now, Loctite's your friend. However, in this case, because there's more than one hole, I want to make sure this gets aligned properly. So make sure that our side links are out of the way. And I'm going to put this in the middle hole. The kit does come with an adjustment tool to do this, help you gap that, but there's also machined indentations in this hole that help you find the middle hole. So I've tightened up one screw to kind of help that part stay on, and I have it through the middle hole. So now I'm going to do this side with some Loctite. I want to line it up for the middle hole, and I'm going to go ahead and install this screw. And before I tighten it up, I want to, the actual eccentrics are coming out of this one too. So I'm just going to go ahead and, wait, you don't want to come out? Okay, fine, you can stay. All right, pull the screw out, Loctite, middle hole, make absolutely sure it's lined up in the middle hole, and you should notice that that's parallel, nice parallel hole, and you're in the middle on each side there. So the tool is helpful, but I don't find it to be absolutely necessary, at least when I do it. Maybe that's why my cars suck. No, I'm just playing. Oh, see, it would work better if you adjusted it properly, Nick. All right. So now this one is just like loosey-goosey. Okay, so maybe I tighten this up a little bit. Maybe I tighten that up a little more. Okay, now I got that one to bind. So, let me take it until it falls. Nice and slow. Boom, it's down. Like a glove. Alright, why is this one not doing that? This one's all sorts of bound up and stuff, even when I pull the screw all the way out. So, let me try something here. Why are you bound? Because I can straight up take this side screw all the way out. Like, all the way out. Like, here it is. It's out. This is still binding up. So, we're going to investigate that. I can still push that in and out, so it's... Maybe it's just a bushing thing? Alright, well... I'm going to set that over here because it's got Loctite on it. I'm going to take this part and figure that out, guys, because... Ooh, it says you're live again. Did I start a second live stream? Oh, somebody else is here. What's up, dude? Assuming, sorry. We're just trying to work out a center pivot that is not as flippity-floppity as I would like it to be. Maybe I over-tightened it here. I bet you, yeah. Me tightening it up here makes it have some friction against the... Why would it do that? Did I put these bushings in the right way? No, the bushing goes in on the side of the shim, so that's how it stays in place. But yeah, maybe I over-tightened it, because if I tighten that now, that's... Hey, it's my son. What's up, Logan? He's joining us from the other room. I'm building our C-car, son. How you doing? All right, well, I'm going to try something. I'm going to grab this by the mounting tab over here. I'm just going to see. All right, so it wants to bind. I'm going to loosen it a little. And now it is definitely better. So if I tighten that up, I'm just worried about that being loose, you know? You don't want that to be loose. Because then that'll back out, and then you'll have a bad time. I can hear him in the other room talking to my wife. Hey, Dad's on live. Hell yeah, I am. Way to go, son. Yeah, that's my entire problem here. So I'm going to take this apart and figure out why is it binding. You know what? Let me do this. Pop out this. Actually, it might be worthwhile leaving that right where it's at. I'm going to try. Just taking the reamer very, very lightly to this bushing. I've removed a little bit of material. I feel it dragging. All right. So now I put this back in. copious amounts of Loctite. Loctite is my friend. Especially on the central pivot, because it's going to be the last thing you're going to check. You're going to be like playing with your front end, your side links. You'll be like, something's loose. I don't know what it is. And it ends up being the stupid center pivot. And it's because you didn't install it good enough. All right. Well, that is still. Why is that binding up like that? I'm just going to keep playing with it until it loosens up. So I don't even have the tightening screw in there. Which is where, by the way? Hello? Well, oh yeah, put it over here. That's right. Oh, I almost forgot. And it made it all the way to the floor this time. Luckily, I heard it. Let me retrieve it. I see it. Maybe we clean that off and re-Loctite it again. Alright. Alright. I would like to say, as soon as I get this rear end together, I'm actually going to stop the live stream and enjoy the company of my family. Because we are getting closer to dinner time, and I would genuinely like to see them, so. It's the weirdest thing. Like, just trying to play with it a little bit and move it around. I'm still kind of binding a little bit. Make sure this adjustment thing is not over tightened. It's not tightened at all. Alrighty. Let me look at something. I might have what we need here. All right, let me check my treasure chest here. A lot of extra parts. A lot of things that say Xbility on it. That's pretty awesome, actually. Look at all these extra things I bought. Because if I have extra pivots, I'm just going to go ahead and use those. So I feel like maybe I'm struggling because of that. Alright, not in this box. Let me check this box. Sorry to bump the camera, guys. Come here, you. Ah. All right, friend that I'm discreetly referring to as the dude. I've got some extra center pivots because I thought, you know what? That seems like something I might replace from time to time. So I'm going to go ahead and try replacing the center pivot bushing. Seeing if that helps our problem. Like I said, it's real important to get your pivots right, because if your pivots aren't right, you're just going to have a bad time. All right. Pop that ball out. Pop the pivot out. Let's set this pivot aside. Put in a new pivot. You know, if I'm being kind of honest, this actually felt really, really snug putting it in there. I think I know what's going on. Hold on. Let me do my best to push this pivot out without being stupid. There we go. All right. I'm going to put my pivot back. Come here, original pivot. This somehow is a little more compressed than it should be. So let me see if I got anything that is like quasi like stepped. Like that's kind of stepped. My bearing tool. Figure out how I want to spread this out, because I'll just get in here with some pliers and just apply some gentle force. Let me back this other screw out, like completely out. I'm just feeling like this is too snug on the bushing, so I just want to give it the slightest amount of spreading force here, just to see if I can make it to where it goes in without needing to be pushed in, which I'm still having to push it in now. Just trying to gently spread it open. I don't want to break this piece, but I need it to not be as snug. Well, it still seems like it's very snug, so if I put this ball in there, it just stays up on its own. That's not what we want at all. So I believe I've identified the problem we're having here. That this got over compressed. Really, is there anything I have that's like straight up tapered where I can just push down on it? Besides a reamer. I don't want to like score it or nothing. Just looking at my tools. What about this thing? No. Could get my calipers in there, but that'd be a dumb idea, huh? We're going to spread it out just a little bit. All right, now try to put the bushing in here. It shouldn't be hard to put in there. You shouldn't have to push it too much. All right, let's try this again, maybe from the other side. Weird. try. It got over tightened and it kind of stayed where it was. Maybe try it that way a little bit. Put it in there and twist. I might have done it. Let's see. So far, hold on, I might be able to do this. Different tool, gall it up. Nope, not that one. No. Put that in there and just. It's just too tight already. Has nothing to do with the bushing. It's the actual, this piece. Interesting. All right. Well, speaking of things I can grab out of other eggs. I am going to. Where's that? Well, I got another kit, and I'm just going to grab the center pivot out of it. Because this one is disappointing me. Can I just grab that out of here? There we go. All right. Let's see what this one does. That one goes in and out of there much easier. So maybe I just over-compressed it or something when I was initially tightening it. I will accept that was probably me being a dum-dum. But there's no reason for the dude to deal with that, so I will cease to be a dum-dum and just give you a part off my car that I have yet to build. My extra car. Yeah, this one's just sleeving right in and out of that real easy now, so. Get that in here. Now I can just tighten that up where it's snugly. Then this doesn't even stay put, which is good. See, that just falls off. Yay! That's kind of what we want it to do. Then I'm just gonna give that a little bit of tension. Now we're gonna reinstall. Probably have to maybe consider putting these back in there first so I can Loctite them again. Don't want to be negligent. Alright, put that over the thing. Get both sides secure before we get too excited. Alright, then snug. And snug. Alright. So now, that's still... It falls like it's supposed to. Okay, let's snug that up a little bit. Now it's not falling like it's supposed to. So if we just ever so slowly turn it until it falls. Bingo! Well, maybe a little bit less. I'll tighten that up a little bit. Because if you put it up to extremes, it's at an angle you're never realistically ever going to have it. You want it kind of at an angle where it's a little bit more realistic. Then loosen it up. So it's still stuck there. So maybe a little bit less. Bingo. All right. So the one piece of hardware that I didn't have in these bags was the hardware we need to hook up these side links. And then once we do that, on bag 7, 6, 7. All right. I'm getting close to turning into a pumpkin here, guys. So I'm gonna just worry about securing the side links, getting it to a point where I feel we're in a good place to stop. That's what this is, by the way. A little thing that helps set the gap back here. But as you can see, we're good. So, all right. Just get some screws out of here. All right. It seems that there's some extra hardware in the F1 version of this. So I'm only going to retrieve what I need. Interesting. Lovely. All right. So 2 of these screws were supposed to go over here. I mixed them up. So, yeah. Well, everything's assembled correctly, so we're just not going to sweat it. I need to get in here and find the screws I need to do what I'm trying to do. And which I believe it are these 2 longer ones. Put that over here. And I'm just going to leave these screws over here because they're for something during the next step. Alright. So I have 2 screws, and well, these are longer. Maybe those aren't the right screws. Alright, so bag 6 content, center pivot and center pivot ball. Bag 7 content has pivot mount 2. We have M2x4 and M2x5. Hold on a second. Let me see here. So there's supposed to be 5s that go up into that. So which ones go into the sides? Why am I asking myself questions on a live stream? Alright, so that's 4. So that's supposed to be an M2x4 screw. I'm confusing myself. Sorry, guys. Somebody's yelling at the TV. It's this, stupid. It's this. Alright, so that's actually like a little longer. We got different sizes here. So that one is alright, well, what else is in this bag? Let's just empty this bag out. Definitely not that screw. Could be that screw. Alright, so it says that this screw is supposed to be, this is F1 bag 7. Okay, I've got it, guys. I see what I did. F1 bag 7 has the 2x4 to get us to the point where I want to stop, I just have to put these screws in. Okay. All right. Why don't I just start with the correct driver that I'll end up having to use anyway? Let's pop it through the carbon first. Okay, so what we're doing, we're just trying to attach the side links. So make sure these are indeed the screws I think they are. Why not? All right. And snug. Same thing on this side. Screw. There you go. All right. Man, almost been 3 hours. And we're snug. All right. Let me. All sorts of weird. Oh, that's why it's not working right. Okay. Well, can I still? Nope. All right. Dum. All right. Made a mistake. When I put that other bushing in there, I put it on the wrong side. So, side links off. See if I can just leave those screws in their holes. Nope. It's going to pop right on out. All right. So once I put the side links on, then it was binding moving forward. All right, so we got those taken out. Now I got to take this out again. That probably would have been a good indication. I had the center pivot piece, or the mount, I had it in there in the wrong direction. So this bushing doesn't have a recess to be in because of the way I installed it. So if there was ever any reason to laugh at myself, that would be one. Oy. So about racing. Hydrate, but also don't forget to feed yourself, because I'm even feeling that, like, maybe being a little bit, hungry is making me not be able to think for shit. So and now this is making that same binding problem that I had before. Sort of. Well, not that much problem. It just falls right off. But it's not wanting to pivot forward much. Hey, look at that. God, this is terrible. Alright, can I get my driver through? Because I'm not liking this at all. About to just rage quit my first live stream. It could just be these stupid red pivot balls. Maybe that coating on them is just worthless. You know what? I wonder if I got like Loctite up in it. Maybe that's why it's gunked. Let's work on that problem. I don't know, guys. try something different here. Alright, well here. Let's do this. Let's actually tighten that up a little bit so it'll hold on to the bushing. I may have actually fixed it. We'll see. Alright, let's re-booger up this screw and that screw with way too much Loctite. Damn, dude. What's up, whoever just joined in? I'm in here driving myself crazy. Had a issue with the assembly of the center pivot there. I assembled it wrong. I assembled it wrong twice. Oh my god. Alright. I was so concerned with fixing the one thing, I didn't fix the other. This first live stream is not going as well as I'd hoped. Alright. Let's install this the correct way, not like a dumb. Alright. Now, yep. All the fun of building cars. All right. So now I gotta tighten that up. All right, and we'll get these side links installed. Then I'll set my tension on that center pivot, and Robert's your uncle. All right. Building is so fun. For the record, I've already Loctited this screw like 14 times. I just had to take it apart a couple times. So, all right, let me just set this center pivot. Beautiful. All right. So that is cash money. Now let's do, hopefully this one is still cash money, because I didn't build this one like a dum-dum. All right. And I've got the screw with the wrong driver. I need the good driver for this aluminum one. This aluminum pivot. My secondary driver is a little stripped. All right. All right. Let's make sure that my center, let's tighten it up a little bit, make it too much. All right, and then boom goes the dynamite. All right, 3 hours. I'm bailing out, guys. I will finish building these cars on a later stream. Thank you so much for joining me and laughing at my frustrations with me, because I'm laughing at myself too. I will see you next time. Thanks again.